right. Should be going live here. Give it a few more seconds to make sure systems are all going properly. All right, I think that should be good. I think we should be good to start. Okay, well, hello everybody. Hopefully you can see me. Um, Thank you for coming to this Code Clinic, the Laws of UX Design. My name's Andrew Peterson, and I'll introduce myself in just a moment, but I just want to say thanks for showing some interest in this. And if you have questions and stuff, can you please hold them until the end of the presentation? That way we can have a more flow to this Code Clinic here. And I just want to also start off by saying, like, the goal of this presentation that I've put together for you guys is to kind of get you informed about the laws of UX and stuff. We're not going to do a deep dive on each law and everything, just kind of just do a pretty general overview, and then hopefully inform you guys about these laws. And for the people that already know about them, awesome. Just a reminder that how important they are. And to everybody that doesn't know about these laws, I think it's going to be really beneficial for your application. So, all right. So, if we can just make sure that we can see my presentation here. All right. All right. So, a little bit about me before we get started. So, my name's Andrew Peterson. I graduated in web design and development, so I know a little bit about design, hopefully enough to teach people. You can see my email on screen. I'm part of the Widgmo team. I'm a technical engagement engineer here at Meshius. So, and graphic design is my passion. Okay. So, what is UX? First and foremost, this is user experience. Kind of like the process that design teams use to create products that provide meaningful and relevant experiences for its users. So, why UX is important? There's a lot of reasons, but to kind of summarize and stuff, customer satisfaction and loyalty. So, good UX design ensures that users have positive experiences, which increases satisfaction and builds loyalty. Um, Increased usability. So, UX design focuses on making products easier to use. And by understanding users' needs and behaviors, designers can create interfaces that are intuitive, reducing the learning curve and making it easier for users to achieve their goals. So, enhanced accessibility. So, effective UX design considers the needs of all users, including those with disabilities. Competitive advantage. So, in a crowded market, a product with superior UX stands out. Reduced development costs. So, investing in UX early in the development process helps identify and resolve potential issues that can become costly problems. Improved ROI. So, good UX design can lead to higher conversion rates, increased customer retention, and ultimately greater revenue. So, user-centered innovation. So, UX research and design focuses on understanding users' needs, preferences, and pain points. And brand perception. So, a positive user experience can enhance a brand's reputation. So, those are just a few of reasons why UX is important. So, the laws of UX. This whole presentation, what it's all about. So, the laws of UX is a collection of best practices that designers can consider when building user interfaces. So, we're going to start off with the aesthetic usability effect. So, users often perceive aesthetically pleasing designs as designs that are more usable. So, takeaways for this. So, an aesthetically pleasing design creates a positive response in people's brains and leads them to believe that the design actually works better. People are more tolerant of minor usability issues when the design of a product or service is aesthetically pleasing. Visually pleasing design can mask usability problems and prevent issues from being discovered during usability testing. All right, some examples for it. So here for this example, we see a large appealing image throughout this website here. And then this isn't going to be the first time I bring up Apple. I'll be explaining why later on, but Apple's success is an excellent example of the competitive advantage of paying attention to aesthetics. So, form and function should work together. When products suffer from severe usability issues or when functionality is sacrificed for aesthetics, users tend to lose patience. So, there's definitely balance to be had. The Doherty threshold. So, productivity soars when a computer and its users interact at a pace under 400 milliseconds. So, that ensures that neither has to wait on the other. Takeaways for it. So, you want to provide system feedback within 400 milliseconds in order to keep users' attention and increase productivity. So you want to use perceived performance to improve response time and reduce the perception of waiting. Animation is one way to visually engage people while loading or processing is happening in the background. Progress bars help make wait times tolerable, regardless of their accuracy. Example. So here you see a creative loading animation, and that will help mask waiting time. Um, Here we see an animation being used, and that's helping make users engaged, and it removes the perception of waiting time. So, example again. So, by utilizing techniques like skeleton loaders, like we see here, designers can create seamless interaction and enhance engagement and productivity. So, this will also help make waiting more bearable. One more example. So here we see Wishmo's flex grid and how the feedback is going to be under 400 milliseconds, utilizing a technique called virtualized rendering. So only the items that are in this viewport here are going to be rendered. So there's a call for 100,000 items, but not actually 100,000 items are being rendered at one time. It's being virtualized rendered. So that's one good way to keep interactions under 400 milliseconds. Fitts law. The time to acquire a target is a function of the distance to the size of the target. So takeaways for it. So touch targets should be large enough for users to accurately select them. Touch targets should have ample space in between them. And touch targets should be placed in areas of an interface that allow them to be easily acquired. Example. So here, the picture on the left, the save button is in the top right corner, and it's easily acquired after filling out a form. So the user's finger needs to travel a relatively long way from the last field of the form to the save button. So in the second photo on the right, the main call to action at the very bottom of the form, and it's close to the last form completed and is easily acquired. Goal gradient effect. The tendency to approach a goal increases with the proximity to the goal. Some takeaways for it. The closer users are to completing a task, the faster they work towards reaching it. So, providing artificial progress towards a goal will help to ensure users are more likely to have the motivation to complete the task. So, by providing a clear indication of progress in order to motivate users to complete the task. Example. So, when I was using this example, I just thought that Duolingo would be a great example to use because constantly they're always showing multiple clear ways of tracking progress and like incentivizing you to complete your goals. Hick's law. The time it takes to make a decision increases with the number and complexity of choices. Takeaways. So, minimize choices when response times are critical to decrease decision time. Break complex tasks into smaller steps in order to decrease cognitive load. um, Avoid overwhelming users by highlighting recommended options. Use progressive onboarding to minimize cognitive load for new users. So you want to be careful not to simplify it to the point of abstraction. Examples. Here is Google's homepage, and I think that it's a really great example because it minimizes choices while also not being too overly simplified. Another example. So here's a Notion welcome survey, and this showcases Hick's law by minimizing choices and breaking up complex tasks into the onboarding process. Jacob's law. So, users spend most of their time on other sites, and that means that users prefer that your site to work the same way as all the other sites they already know. So, some takeaways. So, users will transfer expectations they have built around one familiar product to another that appears similar. So, by leveraging existing mental models, we can create superior user experiences in which the user can focus on their tasks rather than learning new models. So, when making changes, minimize discord by empowering users to continue using a familiar version for a limited time. Example. So, here we can see things that like form toggles, radio inputs, and even buttons all originated from their tactile counterparts. Another example. So here we can see Microsoft Excel and Wijmo Flexsheet. So um, it uses Jacob's law because users are going to have familiarity with one product, and that's going to transfer over to the other. So you want to leverage existing mental models. So you can meet customers' expectations. So, law of common region. So, elements tend to be perceived into groups if they are sharing an area with clearly defined boundaries. Takeaways. Common region creates a clear structure and helps quickly and effectively understand the relationship between elements and sections. Adding a border around an element or group of elements is an easy way to create common region. Common region can also be created by defining a background behind an element or group of elements. All right, for this example, you can see the print dialog box in Windows, and it contains three groupings indicated by borders, here, here, and here. So by creating borders, the user can more easily navigate and digest the information presented to them. Law of proximity. So objects that are near or proximate to each other tend to be grouped together. Takeaways. So proximity helps to establish relationships with nearby objects. So elements in a close proximity are perceived to share similar functionality or traits. Proximity helps users understand and organize information faster and more efficiently. Example. So here we see Google being used as an example again. And this time we're on the search results page and how this contributes to the overall scannability of the page, um, because there is spacing between each result. And then by doing this, it helps to effectively group each result as a related cluster of information. La prognoz. So people will perceive and interpret ambiguous or complex images as the simplest form possible because it is the interpretation that requires the least cognitive effort of us. Takeaways. So the human eye likes to find simplicity and order in complex shapes because it prevents us from becoming overwhelmed with information. Research confirms that people are better able to visually process and remember simple figures rather than complex ones. The human eye simplifies complex shapes by transforming them into single unified shape. Example. So imagine an information in shape filled website, kind of like what we see over here on the left. So the law of Pragnas tells us that our eyes will take all those complex shapes and simplify them, kind of like the image on the right. This is so we're not overwhelmed and we can understand things better. Example. So for this example, IKEA's site kind of showcases the simplicity and organization and symmetry. So the design is kind of clutter free and ensures users can more easily find and view products. Law of similarity. The human eye tends to perceive similar elements in a design as a complete picture, shape, or group, even if those elements are separated. So, takeaways. Elements that are visually similar will be perceived as related. Color, shape, and size, orientation, and movement can signal that the elements belong to the same group and likely share a common meaning or functionality. Ensure that links and navigation systems are visually different from normal text elements. Example. This first example, the upload icon and the recorder upload video button under it share the same red color, and it seems to be in a single group. So designs like this, users are likely to assume that clicking either the icon or the button would trigger the same functionality. Here in the second image, the subcategory links on a website are all shaped as rounded rectangles to strengthen the perception that they're a group and communicate their similar functionality as navigation. So, contrast to that, the rectangular shape of the filters below signal that the group is having a different functionality. Law of uniform connectedness. So, elements that are visually connected are perceived as more uh, related than elements with no connection. So, takeaways for it. Group functions of a similar nature, so they are visually connected via color, lines, frames, or other shapes. Alternatively, you can use a tangible connecting reference, like a line or an arrow, from one element to the next, so that it creates a visual connection. So you want to use uniform connectedness to show context or to emphasize the relationship between similar items. Example. So we got Google once more. And we see the search results with borders that surround specific items, such as the videos and featured snippets. So this border helps to visually connect the content and to also separate it from the other results by giving it a bit more priority. Miller's Law. So the average person can only keep 7 ± 2 items in their working memory. Takeaways. So you don't want to use the magic number 7 to justify unnecessary design limitations. Organize content into smaller chunks to help users process, understand, and memorize more easily. So remember, the short-term memory capacity will vary per individual based on their prior knowledge and situational context. So for this image right here on the right side, I'm showcasing Instagram. So its bottom navigation bar, it features five primary icons. So these options align with users' cognitive capacity and ensures that they can navigate the app more effortlessly. Example. So here we see chunking being used. And what this is, it kind of puts information clusters into chunks. So that helps organize the content and it helps users process and understand the information and it's presented more easily. Outcomes Razor. So, among competing hypotheses, the predicted equally well, the one with the fewest assumptions should be selected. So, this put simply, Occam's razor states that the simplest explanation is preferable to the one that is more complex. So, simple theories are easier to verify, simple solutions are easier to execute. Takeaways. The best method for reducing complexity is to avoid it in the first place. Analyze each element and remove as many as possible without compromising the overall functions. So consider completion only when no additional items can be removed. Example. So here we see PayPal and how it's utilized this concept over time, and because it's continuously simplified its website and mobile app experience. Another example. Once again, we have Apple. So kind of Apple are like the masters of the minimalist approach, and um, not just for the products, but for their UI as well. So Apple is known for its clear and simple designs. Paradox of the active user. So users never read manuals, but start using the software immediately. Who'd have thought? Takeaways. So users are often motivated to complete their immediate tasks, and therefore they don't want to spend time up front reading documentation. So this paradox exists because users will save time in the long term if they take the time to optimize the system and learn more about it. Make guidance accessible through the product experience and design it to fit within the context of use so that it can help these new users no matter what path they choose to take. For example, the tooltips with helpful information. Example. So these examples show an alternative strategy to seamlessly integrate new users into a system that's commonly referred to as progressive onboarding. So this method is designed to gradually build the user's familiarity with the platform, instilling confidence as they navigate through its features. So instead of overwhelming users with information all at once, this approach allows them to explore and learn about features at a comfortable speed. Users are given the liberty to discover and master additional functionalities as they progress. So this promotes a user-friendly experience and encourages exploration and learning. Pareto principle. The Pareto principle states that for many events, roughly 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. Another simple way to think about this: 80% of your smartphone usage is spent on 20% of the apps. Takeaways. So inputs and outputs are often not evenly distributed. Our large group may contain only a few meaningful contributors to the desired outcome. Focus the majority of effort on the areas that will bring the largest benefit to the most users. Example. So in these examples, we can see tabbed menus. So these menus showcase the top 3 to 5 functions, 20% of the application, which takes up 80% of the user's time on the application. So you should have the most used features easily accessible, and a simple way to organize less used features is to put them in a hamburger menu. So here in this next example, we see Netflix mobile app and how it utilizes a hamburger menu in the navigation to hide the less used and more advanced features. Parkinson's law. Any task will inflate until all of the available time is spent. Takeaways. Limit the time it takes to complete a task to what users expect it'll take. Reducing the actual duration to complete a task from the expected duration will improve the overall experience. You want to leverage features such as autofill to save users time when providing critical information within forms. This allows for quick completion of purchases, bookings, and other functions, and helps prevent task inflation. Example. So when a form takes forever to fill out, you're more likely to get frustrated and less likely to complete filling it out. So by designing a form to be quick and simple, you'll be more likely to complete it and have a better experience. So by intentionally limiting the amount of information or design elements in a given interface, you can create a more focused, streamlined user experience that is more effective and easier to use. Peak end rule. People judge an experience largely based on how they felt at its peak and at its end, rather than the total sum or averages of every moment of the experience. Some takeaways. So you want to pay close attention to the most intense points and the final moments, the end of the user journey. You want to identify the moments when your product is most helpful, valuable, or entertaining, and designed to delight the end user. Remember that people recall negative experiences more vividly than positive ones. So MailChimp understands this and how an important moment, especially for its first time users. So it goes above and beyond in presenting a simple confirmation modal. So by infusing a touch of brand character through illustration, subtle animation, and humor, this tool diffuses what could potentially be a stressful moment. More examples. So, negative events also provide emotional peaks and can contribute to a user's lasting impression of an experience. So, by focusing on people's perception of time and waiting, Uber was able to reduce its post request cancellation rate and avoid what could have become a negative emotional peak while using their service. Postal's law: be liberal in what you accept and conservative in what you send. Takeaways: be empathetic to, flexible about, and tolerant of any of the various actions that users could take or any input they might provide. You want to anticipate virtually anything in terms of input, access, and capability while providing a reliable and accessible interface. The more we can anticipate and plan for in a design, the more resilient the design will be. Accept variable input from users, translating that input to meet your requirements, defining boundaries for input, and providing clear feedbacks for the user. Example. So every field you ask a user to fill out requires some effort. The more effort that is needed to fill out a form, the less likely the users will complete the form. That's why the fundamental rule of form design is shorter is better. Make sure to get rid of all inessential fields. In other words, be conservative in the number of fields you send to users, but then when it comes to users filling in those fields, be liberal in what you accept from them. Serial position effect. So users have a propensity to best remember the first and last items in a series. Takeaways. So placing the least important fields in the middle of a list can be helpful because these items tend to be stored less frequently in long-term and working memory. Positioning key actions on the far left and right within elements such as navigation, can increase memorization. Example. So Instagram places their heavily trafficked key action buttons on the far left and right of the nav bar. So this makes it easier for users to remember their location and importance. Tesla's law. So Tesla's law, also known as the law of conservation of complexity, states that for any system there is a certain amount of complexity which cannot be reduced. Takeaways. So all processes have a core of complexity that cannot be designed away and therefore must be assumed by either the system or the user. Ensure as much as possible of the burden is lifted from the user by dealing with an inherent complexity during design and development. Remember to not build products and services for an idealized rational user because people don't always behave rationally in real life. So make guidance accessible and fit within the context of use so that it can also help new active users no matter what path they choose to take. So for example, with tooltips with helpful information. Examples. So modern email clients reduce complexity by populating the from line and suggesting the to line based on prior emails. The ability to inherit a shipping address from billing details within an e-commerce checkout simplifies the process and removes the need to type redundant information. These are both great examples of lifting the burden from the user. Von Rastroff effect, also known as the isolation effect, predicts that when multiple similar objects are present, the one that differs from the rest is most likely to be remembered. Takeaways. You want to make important information or key action visually distinctive. Use restraint when placing emphasis on visual elements to avoid them competing with one another and to ensure salient items don't get mistakenly identified as ads. Don't exclude those with a color vision deficiency or low vision by relying exclusively on color to communicate contrast. So you want to carefully consider users with motion sensitivity as well when using motion to communicate contrast. Example. So here, the effect is the main reason why a call to action looks different from the rest of the action buttons on a site or application. So here, you can see a standard tier of options with the main call to action being the recommended choice. Zeigarnik effect. People remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks better than completed tasks. Takeaways. So, invite content discovery by providing clear signifiers of additional content. Providing artificial progress towards a goal will help to ensure users are more likely to have the motivation to complete that task. Provide a clear indication of progress in order to motivate users to complete tasks. Example. So here in this example, a checklist is used to invite and motivate users to explore basic features in order to check items off a list and complete them. All right. So we're getting to the end here. Just want to just briefly touch on with Meshius, and we offer many different products. And more information about our products can be found at developer.meshius.com. And that's going to be it for the laws of UX. So thank you for bearing with me for these past like 30-ish minutes. If you have questions, go ahead and throw some questions up for me. And then you can also see my email on screen if I'm not able to answer your questions here. And if you email me, I'll be sure to try to get back to you as soon as I can. But yeah, please send whatever questions you'd like my way if you have any. But yeah, thank you again for spending some time with me this this morning, this afternoon, whatever time it is where you're at. Appreciate your interest. Yeah, and then also if you want access to some of the information and slides that I have, go ahead and send an email to me, and I'd be more than happy to share it with you. All right, it seems like we have a question right here. How do Widmo controls optimize user experience? So, Widmo has many different controls and UI components, and like right out of the box, they're simple to use and easy to add to your application, and they're fully customizable. So it depends on the type of application that you're building and what exactly you're trying to optimize. But Widmo is extremely customizable and easy to adjust to whatever needs your application has. So it's going to optimize user experience very easily by just being fully customizable. Hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, ooh, okay. What are the top Widmo controls used to build aesthetically pleasing UIs? So the top control with Widmo, of course, is going to be our flex grid. And like I mentioned and touched on through a couple of the slides, um, uh, so users' mental models based on other products that they're familiar with, for instance, Excel. So users, whenever they interact and stuff with FlexGrid, FlexChart, they're going to know exactly how to use it. And because it's fully customizable, you can adjust it um, to fit however your application, whatever your application's needs are, it can fit. So hopefully that answers that question. But yeah, like I've mentioned, go ahead and shoot me an email if you want access to some of these slides or more information. And I'd be happy to talk with you guys about design, especially laws of UX. I hope that you guys learned something and can carry it forward in your application development. But if there's no more questions or anything, um, thank you for attending. Shoot me an email like I've been saying, and I appreciate your time with me today. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll stay here for just a bit longer in case somebody does come up with a question.